looks as if I am live. Hey, everybody, good afternoon. If you are on the East Coast, good afternoon, close to evening. If you are on the West Coast, good afternoon. If you're in another country, I don't know your time zone. I don't know how to name your time zone, but good afternoon. Here for the second day of my Heirs Property Kwanzaa talks. However, it is the third day of Kwanzaa and I am here to talk with y'all about principles of Kwanzaa, not as an expert in Kwanzaa principles or in Kwanzaa at all, but as someone who is an expert in heirs property. I'm here to talk to you about heirs property in light of the Kwanzaa principles. And it's something that we are doing together. I'm learning with you. It's not like I'm coming here like I know everything about Kwanzaa. I've only recently started celebrating it more intentionally and attending celebrations. So it's something that I'm getting into, get my family into, but by no means am I an expert. So with that being said, I invite you all to engage with me in the chat, whether you have a question about Aries property or you want to say something about a Kwanzaa principle, or if you want to share a story that you would like to share with everyone else about your own family's experience with Aries property. Whatever it is that you want to do, I invite you to engage with me in the live chat. And I also invite you to share this with a friend, like this video, subscribe to my channel, tell somebody that they need to get in on this Heirs Property Talk Kwanzaa edition. So, like I said, today is the third day of Kwanzaa, and the principle for today is Ujima. I think that's how you say it, Ujima. I sometimes get it mixed up with the fourth principle, with this Ujama or Ujama, but it is Ujima for today. Ujima stands for collective work and responsibility. And I'm going to read this from this website. It's called the official Kwanzaa website.org. I don't know if it's official. I don't know who is the one who determined that it was official, but it is a website that looks like it has been around for a few years, but maybe hasn't been updated. But the good thing is these Kwanzaa principles, they don't expire. These are principles that are based in Swahili words and have been around for a long time. And so regardless of if this website has been updated, these principles remain the same. So, Ujima, collective work and responsibility. It means to build and maintain our community together, make our brothers and sisters' problems our problems, and to solve them together. In light of Aaron's property, I mean, like, isn't that you might as well say Aaron's property, collective work and responsibility? Like, it's the same, it's interchangeable. Ujima, to build and maintain our community together. Your community can be your family and your family property and how you use that property. And then to make our brothers and sisters' problems our own, I mean, heirs property is about family, right? So brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, we are deciding that we are, well, I won't say we've decided, because heirs property is kind of like someone else decided that you were gonna have this community, that you were gonna have this network of people owning this family land together. You didn't necessarily decide that. You were just born into a family that owned property. And now it's this shared responsibility and this shared privilege. And I feel like Ujima is like is it represents like heirs property when it's done right. It represents the spirit of Ujima because it's going to take some collective work, and there's definitely some collective responsibility when we're talking about heirs property, because just thinking about it from a legal perspective, heirs property is property, the way I define it, is property that was owned by a single individual or maybe one or two individuals or a small group of individuals. They acquired this property, and as each of them has died, their ownership interest in the property passed to their heirs. And so what we have is joint ownership of property. So if you have joint ownership of property, that means you also have shared responsibility. So in order for you to maintain that property in a way that's going to sustain it for future generations, in order for you to make sure that this property is actually benefiting everyone, it's going to take some collective work and responsibility. It requires that you and your family members who own this property together come together to create a plan for sustaining the property into the future. You got to come together and decide, how are we going to pay the property taxes for this family property? How are we going to make sure that the property is maintained and up to code standards? How are we going to make sure that people who live on the property are able to benefit from that, but that they also contribute their fair share of the financial responsibilities, the things that are required to keep this property going? Ujima, collective work and responsibility. That is what Heirs property is all about. When things go wrong is when we fail to honor this principle of Ujima, and that burden often falls on one person or a small group of people. But all these other people are part owners, and so it's assumed that they get to benefit. So why not also share in that responsibility? So again, Ujima, to build and maintain our community together, make our brothers and sisters' problems our problem, and solve them together. If families can come together and solve the problems that arise with them having this shared ownership of heirs property, that's going to benefit everybody, because not only are we preserving this family into this property into the future, we are allowing ourselves to do it in a way that we are intentionally creating a way for it to benefit everybody. And it could look like we allow some people to live on the property and they help pay the property taxes by paying a small amount of rent, or it could be even considered like a membership fee or a family fee for you to live on the property. You contribute something financially to make sure the property continues. But with that as well, the other family members are committing to honor your right to live there or your opportunity to live there. And there you have rules of engagement so that you can operate with each other in a way that benefits everybody. It might be that a portion of the land is used for those who live on it, but then another portion of the land is going to be for others who maybe have family members who are farmers, or maybe the family might decide we want to rent the property to a farmer, or we might decide that we want to sell the timber from the land and use that money to help maintain the property for the benefit of everyone. Every family is going to be different when it comes to heirs property, so it's going to be about you deciding as a family what makes sense for us. How is it that we come together? What does our collective work look like? What does our collective responsibility look like? That's something that each family has to decide for themselves in order to maintain this family property in a way that honors, one, your ancestors' vision, their legacy, and two, allows this property to be a benefit for those who are living now, and for those who will come in the future. So to me, like, heirs property is just, it falls square into the principles of Kwanzaa. Each and every principle of Kwanzaa, as we will discover together as we go through this daily heirs property talk about Kwanzaa, each of the Kwanzaa principles come into play when we're dealing with heirs property. But today, Ujima, I just talked about how this one comes into play, and I think it comes to light in a very significant way. So I've been talking a lot continuously, I have not paused. I do want to invite those of you who are joining in live that if you would leave a comment in the chat so I can respond directly to you. How does Ujima show up in your family's heirs property situation? How does it show up, and how do you wish that it showed up? How should it show up? How do you wish your family members would come together with a collective work and responsibility attitude, coming together to see that, hey, this is something that we all can benefit from if we all put in. So I would love to hear from you in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Let me know what challenges you've had with your family's heirs property, what questions you have. Like, I want to make this relevant. I want to make this a two-way conversation. I don't want to just be talking at y'all. I want to talk with you and have a conversation, because I can learn from y'all. I tell you, I learn from the families that I work with every day. I learn different ways that families are managing property collectively. I learn different ways that families are using property. I learn ways that families share responsibilities. So, for example, there might be someone who has more financial resources and they're able to contribute more money. But then someone else who's not able to contribute as much money, they're able to contribute more time, or maybe they live closer and they can go check on the property, or they can work with the local farmers and find the best farmer to farm the family land, or they may have some connections with USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, or they might have connections with a local nonprofit. They can bring those resources to bear to benefit this family property. So it's not about everybody doing the same thing. It's about you all as a family deciding where are our strengths. Some people are better at some things than others. Some people have more resources than others, financial or time resources. Others may be able to figure things out in a way that the others can't. Then there might be some who have like specific skills, or they might own a business like a landscaping company, or perhaps they are a land surveyor, or they know they have a buddy that they went to high school with who's a land surveyor. Every family has resources. It's about identifying those resources and figuring out where does everybody's contribution make the most sense. So that is Ujima in the light of heirs property. I want to hear from y'all again. Let me know, what questions do you have? Some of you may be wondering, who am I? But before I say that, I do want to just remind you, please like this video if you have not already liked this video. Subscribe to my channel if you want to keep up with me. I will be doing more videos like this. For the rest of Kwanzaa, I'll be talking every day about one of the principles of Kwanzaa. But then after that, I will be doing more frequent YouTube videos because I find that I like it. So I'm gonna come on here and talk to y'all. As long as y'all listening, I'm gonna be talking. Let's just do this two-way thing together. So again, like this video if you have not already liked it. Thank you so much. I see someone just liked it. And make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Share it with a friend or a family member. Like if y'all get y'all family members on here over the next 15 minutes and y'all got questions, or if there's something you want me to tell your family, you can put it in the chat and I can explain something that has been challenging for your family, or a question that you all have had. I can explain that for you here on this live conversation. So take advantage of this opportunity. I'm just here for the next 15 minutes or so. I actually have a webinar coming up at 5:30 Eastern, so I'll be leaving before then. But I'm here for the next 15, 20 minutes or so. So if you have a family member or a friend or a neighbor that you want to hear about Heirs property, you have a question that you want them to hear an answer to, put it in the live chat and I will make sure that I address it. And if they come in live, they can listen live. If they don't come in live, they can just hit the replay and listen to it later. But I promise y'all I will tell y'all who I was. I think I told y'all at the beginning, but in case you don't know, I am attorney Veronica McClendon. I practice law in the state of Georgia. I was about to say something like the great state of Georgia or something, so that's why I kind of hesitated because I just took out the great state stuff. Anyway, I'm an attorney in Georgia, Macon, Georgia, to be exact. My firm operates all over the state, especially when it comes to helping families with heirs property, when it comes to working with farmers, making sure that they have their legal entities in place to manage their farm, to make sure they have contracts and leases in place, make sure that they are doing business in a way that's going to create a sustainable business and not just something that gets them through day to day. So we work with farmers in that way. We work with families who have inherited heirs property. Some of the things we do with families who own heirs properties help them to get clear ownership of their property. We also help them to create entities like LLCs or trusts so they can transfer the ownership of the heirs property into those entities. So that instead of the property being owned by all of these family members, it is now owned by a single entity that the family then controls and manages together. We also help families with estate planning, so that's wills and trusts. We help families to make sure that they have a legally binding plan in place to pass their property to the next generation in the way that makes sense to them. We help families with what I call intentional estate planning. And then, so I said heirs property. Oh, probate. Probate is the other thing we help families with. So if a family member has died and they own property, whether that be real estate like a house or land, or bank accounts or investment accounts, whatever kind of assets a person owns at the time of their death, We help their family members to either probate their will and distribute the assets according to the will, or to probate their estate and distribute the assets the way that state law requires. And we guide our clients through the process. We know that for most of our clients, the legal system is something that they are not familiar with. So we try to be there with you and guide you through the process, answer your questions, just support you throughout. We don't just get you appointed as the administrator and say, have a great day. We are here with you the entire way. So I told y'all a little bit about me, about my firm. Um, and I'm here to talk to y'all about heirs property. Like I said, it's in the context today of Kwanzaa, the Kwanzaa principle of Ujima, collective work and responsibility. But I can talk about anything y'all want to talk about when it comes to heirs property. So please let me know in the live chat what questions you have, and I will be happy to answer them. If this is helpful to you, I would love to hear that, just to know that this information is helpful to you on your journey. So when we talk about the journey, what is the journey? Where are we going? What are we trying to accomplish? I have been working with families on heirs property now for going on 10 years. January is 10 years for me. So in January, I would have been helping families with heirs property issues for 10 years. And of course, after January, I think it was 16th is when I started my first job doing heirs property stuff. So after January 16th, I can say I have been doing heirs property work for more than 10 years. And that's exciting to me because it's something that I never knew was like an opportunity. When I was in law school, I knew I wanted to be a juvenile defense lawyer. And then as I was going through law school, I learned about education law. And I thought I would like to help kids to not get kicked out of school and to make sure that kids with disabilities had access to special education resources to support them their education in school. And that's what I thought I was going to be doing. But then I got a job where I was working on heirs property, and that's where I found my calling. That's where I learned, like, I feel like part of it is like why I'm here on this earth. Why did God put me in the legal profession? I believe it was to help families with their heirs property. So here I am, working with families who have inherited land, who have inherited houses. A lot of times, the families are in a place where they feel stuck because they have inherited this asset. It's supposed to be something that's a blessing to them, but it ends up feeling like a burden because what you have is property that you don't own by yourself. You own it with your brothers, your sisters. You own it with your cousins, your aunts, your uncles and uncles who may see you as a baby. Even though you might be 45 years old, they still see you as the 5-year old kid who had the snotty nose, or they see you as that baby whose diaper they changed when they were, really small. And they don't really see you now as an equal when it comes to handling business with the family property. So a lot of families are feeling like they are stuck because they have this asset, but they got to deal with so many family dynamics in order to really benefit from this asset. They have to deal with people not respecting that they're now an adult. They have to deal with people who may be jealous of them and holding that jealousy against them and not wanting to work collectively to deal with the family heirs property. They're dealing with family members who may not even be in touch. Like, the family hadn't heard from them in 5 years or 20 years. And now we're trying to get this family property resolved, but we hadn't heard from Jimmy in so long. We don't know if he's still alive or not. We don't know if he had children or if he died single. We don't know any of that. And so these are the challenges that I'm helping families to work through and helping them to at least get a start on their family heirs property situation. Some people, we're able to get them further along than others. Some people, it's just let's get you an understanding of where things are legally. But then others, the end result is that you have clear ownership of your family property, and now you can use it either as an individual owner of the property or collectively with your family members. Perhaps you have created something like an LLC or a trust, and y'all have a management structure in place. You know exactly how income is going to come into the property. You know how income is going to be distributed between the heirs. You have all of that stuff worked out, and now you're able to use the land or use the house in a way that an owner typically is able to do. So, for example, when it comes to houses, a lot of times you'll have someone who's living in the family house and they've been living there for however long. They've been paying the property taxes. They raised their family there, whatever it may be. But then something happens, like a tree falls into the roof and the roof needs to be repaired, or the siding on the house needs to be updated so that the property is able to be kept warm in the wintertime. And there might be a program that can help this family to rehab this house. But because it's heirs property, because it's owned jointly by so many members of the same family, and we can't trace who those people are, now they're not able to access those programs that can help them pay for the repairs to their home. And this is like sometimes it's people who are going to pay a contractor to do work. And that contractor says, well, I can't do work on this house because I don't have all of the owners signing off on it. And I need to have all the owners signing off on it. So there's families who they end up not being able to make the repairs that they need to make to their family home because they don't have clear ownership. They don't have clear title. I also end up working with families who haven't acquired land. And a lot of times it'll be a farmer who comes to me and says, hey, I've been farming my granddaddy's land for as far as I know. And now that he's gone, I'm not able to get any kind of financial assistance to continue to farm my property because I went to USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, and they told me if I don't have clear ownership of my property or if I don't have a lease signed by the owner to say I have the right to farm this property, they're not going to give me any grants or any loans or allow me to participate in cost share programs, things like that. And so the farmer ends up being stuck and not able to really access those programs. And I see that Chastity said, hey, Chastity, thank you so much for tuning in and for engaging with me on the chat. Everybody else, y'all can say hey too. Just say what's up. Veronica say I'm here. Say this is good, or I wish you would talk about this, or this will help me if you would cover this so I can send it to my sister and she'll know I ain't lying. Whatever you want to do. Like, let's engage. Thank you so much, Chastity, for saying what's up. And I'm here. For those of you who don't know, again, I'm attorney Veronica McClendon, and I'm just talking about heirs property. I've been talking about heirs property now for almost 10 years. Like I told y'all earlier, I have been doing heirs property work now for 10 years in January. And so after January, I'll be saying more than 10 years. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're learning. Put any questions you have in the chat. Like we can talk about it while we're here. But as I was talking about with heirs property, I was telling y'all how families end up with heirs property. It might be a family house, it might be a family farm, and sometimes it's just like land that the family has had for years. And you got like this small group of family members who just pay the taxes. They work every day and they just pay the taxes on their property and they just do what they got to do to keep the family land going. And they are tired. They are tired. They're like, we've been doing this for 30 years now, and I would like to actually have some of my money for my retirement. So I don't want to just keep paying money and putting it into this land, and this land is not giving me anything back in return except for a good feeling that I'm honoring my ancestors with what I'm doing. And I don't want anybody doing that. I want your land making money for you. Even if the land is only making enough money to pay its own taxes, I'm happy that you're doing that instead of you working every day. And so I mean I have clients who been able to retire and they don't retire because they got to pay the taxes for this family land that they don't even live on. They ain't seen in years. Like we don't want to keep being in that place. Hey y'all, I appreciate y'all for letting me know that you're here in the chat. I'm really grateful for all of you tuning in and letting me know that this information is helpful to folks. I feel now like this urge to really be here and talk to people about heirs property because I realize it's like a burden for a lot of people. Like I was just mentioning, we have people who work every day, not so that they can like pay their bills in their house. They're working every day so that they can pay bills for this family property because they told their grandfather that they would not let the family lose the property. And I can just only imagine how much of a weight that is for someone, and that's why I'll bring it back to our Kwanzaa principle of the day, Ujima. It has to be collective work and responsibility. We have to find a way to get our family members engaged so that the burden's not falling on one person or a small number of people, but that this is a shared responsibility, not a burden for anybody, but a shared responsibility that we say, this is ours. This is something that our ancestors got for us. Many of my clients, their ancestors endured years of, some of them went through slavery, and then they came out of slavery and they worked hard as a sharecropper and were able to acquire this land. Some of them were able to acquire the land because they had another job and they worked that job and they bought that land, and they had to fight people in order to keep it. I know of people whose family members were killed over that family land. And so they want to honor that legacy, but it can't be something that one person or a few people take on. It has to be a collective work and responsibility. But what I will say with that is that if there are people in your family who don't want any part in it, like, let them go, give them a way out. Sometimes you got to buy them out. Sometimes they might say, well, if you don't ask me to help pay the taxes anymore, I'll sign a quit claim deed and give you my interest in the property. But whatever you have to do, people who are not participating in this family property, or who don't care, or who are not engaged, don't spend all your energy trying to get them engaged. Find a way to get them out of the picture so that you can actually participate in this endeavor with people who want to be here. Don't hold people hostage over family land. It's not going to work out. I'm telling y'all, it's not going to work out. I'm telling y'all because I'm going to have to count how many families I've worked with. It's a lot. I have worked with a lot of clients on Heirs property, and it does not work out to hold people hostage. They're gonna be like a thorn in your side for the rest of this time you got this property. I can promise you that. I see I have a question in the chat, or a statement in the chat about that's why you put the property in a trust and have the trust pay for the property. And so that is a good strategy. You can put the property in a trust or an LLC, which actually I've been encouraging more people to put their properties in LLCs because they have a greater level of liability protection, to separate your personal assets from the trust assets. And it allows the family to pivot if they need to. LLCs typically are easier to modify, to change, to revise, as the needs of the family may change, as the local laws may change. It's a little easier to pivot and change an LLC versus to do the same thing with the trust. But again, on the flip side, some people say, well, that's why I want a trust, because I don't want my family to be able to change things. So you just have to really like weigh it out and see what makes the most sense for your family. But you got to have an income stream for that. So you can create a trust, but you got to find a way to fund the trust outside of the property. So we put the property in a trust. One, that's going to require 100% participation from all the family, because everybody has to transfer their ownership into the trust. If it's heirs property, but if it's like your property that you own outright, by all means, you can put that property into your trust. You can create a revocable trust or irrevocable trust, depending on what your needs are. Put your property into that trust, and then from there, your trustee will manage the property on your behalf. And as people die, instead of property just going to their heirs, it could go it could it stays inside the trust, or if you create an LLC, it stays inside the LLC. But you still have to find a way to make money. So sometimes families will say, we want everybody who's going to participate in this to get a life insurance policy, and they're going to make the beneficiary of their life insurance policy the trust or the LLC that holds the land. They make that entity the beneficiary, and so the money goes into a pot. And from there, that money can be used to invest. It can be used to pay expenses for the property. Some families will say, we're going to create scholarship funds for the young people who are participating in this family property. And they don't have to be young people, but people who go into school. Or they might say, we're going to create a business fund for our family members that will loan money to them interest free for a period of time to help them start a business or make improvements to a business, so that they don't have to go to a bank to get that done. So there are ways you can like really mix and match your family property, your land ownership, your home ownership, and also bring in other financial streams and create investment opportunities that can then be used to grow the money, to grow the asset profile that your family has. But again, that collective work and responsibility. You have to have people who are going to share this vision for where you're going and bring their resources, their time, their energy, their intellect into the process so that everybody's working together for this common goal. So I appreciate y'all so much for tuning in. For everybody who just tuned in, I'm attorney Veronica McClendon. I practice in the state of Georgia. My firm covers the entire state of Georgia when it comes to heirs, property, and estate planning. We also are just doing this education thing. That's something that for a long time I was thinking, well, I should do education in a way that supports my firm. But I still am going to do that because my firm needs to continue to grow. However, I just want to educate. I don't know where this is going, but I want to share the information that I have with all of you so that you can use your family property in a way that is a benefit to you and other members of your family, that benefits your community, that benefits the society. I actually have a belief that if families who own heirs property get a better handle on their heirs property and actually manage it in a way that is beneficial, I believe it's going to have a ripple effect that's going to benefit not only this family, but it benefits the surrounding community. It benefits the whole world eventually. You know, it's just that ripple effect. Because I think when people own land and they're invested in their land, particularly land, but also other real estate, houses and things, when people own property, it kind of, to me, this is my little ideas, but it creates this sense of responsibility that makes you feel like I'm contributing to something because that land is going to be there. That real estate that's connected to the land is going to be there, or the structure that's connected to the land is going to be there. And so you're investing in your property, and it's also investing in the neighboring communities. Um, there's a lot. I talked about it a little bit yesterday. So if you didn't see my Kujijakulia self-determination video, I talked a lot about my family and how land ownership impacted my family, how it created this sense of pride and this sense of autonomy that I think that families who own theirs property, I see it in them as well. A lot of my clients, I see that they kind of live a certain way because their granddaddy was a landowner, because their great grandmother was a landowner, and she was able to keep her property in the family regardless of people threatening her and threatening her family and threatening to take her land. She was able to take to protect that land for the family. So I sense that pride in the families I work with, and I believe that more and more families can experience that by taking full control over their heirs property. I'm so glad y'all listening together as a family, because a lot of times families are coming to me and they're like, or people come to me and they say, I wish that my cousin was hearing this. So I'm so glad that you're hearing this as a family. And hopefully it sparks some good conversation for y'all afterward that can help you to continue to do whatever it is that you're wanting to do as a family. Um, so I do ask y'all if y'all wouldn't mind just like this video. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. It helps other people to connect with me and to learn from me and to be able to be a resource to us as well, because the more people who are coming together as families who own heirs properties, individuals who are working on their family heirs property, the more of us who can come together, we're able to share resources and ideas, and we might even partner with each other. One thing that is an opportunity for families who own property in the same community, they might decide that they want to manage their family timber together. So if they own property that has trees on it, they might say, we're going to collectively work so that when the people come to weed my forest, they'll go and weed yours afterwards, and then we don't have to pay as much to get that done. Or when the people come to seed my land, they're going to seed your land with trees as well. And so then we're able to manage our forest land together. We kind of create a little ecosystem. This is something that's outside of my realm of expertise. But if you ask my forestry friends and my agriculture friends, they will say that there is a benefit in having an ecosystem of landowners who are operating in a way that they're working in a way that's kind of collective. So there's so many opportunities. I'm gonna go ahead and start wrapping this up. So if y'all have any questions, y'all go ahead and put them in the chat because I'm actually going to be doing an estate planning webinar at 5:30. It's gonna be on Zoom, so you will need to register. I'm gonna get the link and put it in the chat. If anybody wants to register for that, they are welcome to do so. You might be asking, like, Veronica, why do you have a live webinar and a Zoom webinar happening back to back like this? One, if you don't know Veronica, it may not make sense, but you know, Veronica, she just be doing stuff and may not actually remember that she already had something on the calendar. So that is really what happened. I told folks a while ago that I was going to do an estate planning webinar tonight. And then like one day I just had a great idea that I was going to start doing this heirs property meets Kwanzaa type situation. And it's been fun. I'm looking for my thing. This is Zoom. Everybody done changed their stuff, and I'll just be having a hard time figuring out what's what. And if anybody, I'm not gonna go into that. But anyway, so I decided I was gonna do this heirs property Kwanzaa type celebration thing. Here in Macon, we have an annual Kwanzaa celebration that we do, and it just, I mean, it's so inspiring to me. If you're in Macon, let me know if you go to the Kwanzaa celebration because it just, for me, it reminds me of why I'm doing what I'm doing. It just brings so much clarity, so much context. Y'all know what? Actually, in the chat, I think I do have the link to. I think I had a link to the to register for the webinar because I am not able to log into Zoom to get my link for some reason. But we're gonna figure that out. I see I have a question. I'm gonna answer that question. How do you deal with heirs that are designated in the deed of trust but have had little to offer in regard to taxes and maintenance of non-income producing property? Yeah, that is a challenge. And how to deal with it is something that is really one of those like family specific type situations to see first what does that deed of trust say. Um, a lot of times, unfortunately, if family members can't come to a resolution together, we end up in litigation to force something to happen. But one thing I will say on that, it just came to me as I said it, a trust is set up so that a trustee is responsible for maintaining the property for the beneficiaries. So if the other people are listed as beneficiaries, this not necessarily their responsibility to help maintain the family property. So that goes to actually what I was saying earlier. I hadn't thought about this before, but the difference between the LLC and a trust, with an LLC, a lot of times there's a little bit more of a shared responsibility. There's a little bit more expectation that if you're going to be a part of this LLC, you got skin in the game and you actually you need to help contribute to this family property in a certain way. With a trust, the beneficiaries are often more passive. And so they're there as beneficiaries, and the trustees are the ones whose job it is to make sure that there's income coming into the property, that the property is being maintained, and that all the things that need to happen are happening with that family property. So that's where a LLC versus a trust, sometimes a LLC could be more beneficial if you want to make it more of a shared responsibility. A trust may be more beneficial if you don't want to make it a shared responsibility, but you want to put the responsibility on one or a few trustees who will be fiduciaries to the beneficiaries, which means they have a legal obligation to ensure that this property is maintained and that the income comes in a way that benefits the beneficiaries. So in that case, what we would probably end up doing is holding the trustees accountable and saying, hey, y'all either need to come in here and do your job or we're going to have you removed. And in worst case scenario, if there's actually been some wrongdoing that's alleged against those trustees, that you will hold them accountable for that wrongdoing and say that they not only need to be removed, but maybe they have some kind of a penalty that's put against them where they have to pay money in order to actually in order to I guess be held accountable. So those are some of the things, we have trust versus LLC. Sometimes if it's a trust situation, it's almost impossible to hold those beneficiaries responsible for not doing their fair share because they're not required to under that trust agreement more than likely. So something to think about when we're thinking about what's going to be the best structure for our family. And that's why I really um all attorneys don't do this. They don't all like really talk through it with the family, what's going to be the best bet for them. They just kind of say, "Hey, you should do this," or if the family member says, "I want that," they just come. They just do what they say they want, but they don't really talk with them about the pros and cons. And so sometimes the trust may not be the best setup for someone. And then if the trust is no longer the best setup, if you can get the trustees to come together, maybe they might decide to create an LLC and transfer the property from the trust to the LLC. And in doing so, set the LLC up. It would be done through the operating agreement. Set the LLC operating agreement up so that the family is then more responsible, that they have requirements to actually help support this family property and not just be passive participants. But you gotta know your family because if you know they're not gonna do their part, then you might just want to keep it in a trust and just have the trustees to figure out a way to manage the trust so that they're not carrying more burden than they really want to be carrying. Um, so I'm putting my webinar registration link in the chat and I'm gonna hop off in just a minute so that I can eat a bite before I do this other webinar. So y'all welcome to join me there. But I do thank y'all so much. I just made my day for you participating and coming on to this live, this YouTube live and asking questions, liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and just being present and listening to me. I definitely look forward to comments, questions, anything that can help me to make content that's more relevant to each of you, stuff that's going to help you and your family to actually get to where you're trying to go. So let me know. I can only help y'all if y'all tell me what y'all need from me, and I'll do my best to come up with ways to support you on your journey. I thank y'all so much for tuning in. Again, I'm attorney Veronica McClendon. I'm here live from Macon, Georgia. Happy Kwanzaa, everyone. Ujima, collective work and responsibility. I'm going to read this little thing one more time. Collective work and responsibility. Ujima means that we are building and maintaining our community together. We're making our brothers and sisters' problems our problems, and we work together to solve them. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. Y'all have a great evening and a great week. Happy New Year if I don't see you, but please know I will be here every day for the rest of Kwanzaa at 11 a.m. to talk with y'all about Heirs property. Have a great day.